Alright, Chapter 11, the Tanker Car Operations. Section 1, Tanker Car Facility. The rail facilities available. The tanks may be used along with the pipeline to transport petroleum tank. Product. Each tanker car should be used to carry only one grade of contact. Product. It is not possible the tanker car must be inspected with cleaning between the loads to avoid the product contaminant. Tanker cars vary with the capacity of design, though the petroleum product usually have one compartment with a range capacity of 6,000 to 16,000 gallons. Other tanker cars have more than one compartment and carry more than one product at a time. The tanker cars vary with those with the design narrow gauge foreign service to those designed with a broad gauge foreign service and standard gauge domestic service. Some tanker cars have heaters like liquefying viscous products, but other without heaters are generally for the figure 11 that shows the typical petroleum tanker car dome, safety valve, bottom outlet of the tanker cars is described. Show the dome and the shell of the bottom outlet. The dome. Each tanker car compartment has a dome shown figures 11 to 2, with the page 11 to 2 allows space for the product to expand with the temperature rise. The tank shall be filled to the top of each dome with a manhole through which for the tanker car be loaded, unloaded, inspected, cleaned, and repaired. Dome covers may be hinged or bolted on, screwed on. Most domes have vents and safety valves that let out for vapors. Show the dome cover for the dome gasket with the dome ring, vent holes, safety vent hole, valve rod, spring valve rod, bracket, outlet valve, outlet chamber, gasket, open outlet cap, top of the tank bottom. Safety valve. Safety valve use the most tanks consist of the spring-loaded pop of the valve that opens with the preset pressure of the dome, builds over the point with the pressure setting valve with the valve that's forced off the valve seat with the lets the excess vapor escape with the spring causes the valve automatically when the pressure drops the level equal to the valve setting. Bottom outlet. Each tanker car has a bottom outlet usually loaded and unloaded through it with the outlet valve is shown with the figure 11 to 2, page 11 to 2 with the control with the valve with the rod handle, valve rod hand wheel. Outlets for the tanker car used in the United States are 5 inches in diameter. Outlets for the tanker cars overseas are generally 4 inches in diameter. All outlets have male threads and tanker cars elbows. Assembly used to adapt the pump section line with a 5-inch outlet. A 5 to 4 inch adapter must be installed between the elbow assembly with the tanker car 5-inch outlet. Loading, unloading site facilities. Engineering, personal construction standard load of the unloading facility. The equipment of these facilities include the pumps and the manifold for the grounding item, the firefighting item, the portable pump. Some of these may be used with the undeveloped theater for the chapter deals mainly with the use of portable pumping assemblies for loading, unloading tanker cars. However, the same procedure for the same precautions apply with the tanker operations site. Concern of the fact of the main consider the provide with the choosing of the preparing a site with consider these fact the site should be at least 100 feet from evening of the building site should have the adequate drainage of the tanker car should be unloaded by gravity. Site must be elevated with enough to have the proper flow of the receiving container. The tanker cars are loaded by gravity. Loading them site must below with the supply container. The spur track of the bypass window should be provided with the loading unloading tanker car. Track over at the site should be level with the product at all parts of the tanker car remaining level. This all out with the accurate gauge and keep the air from the fuel from being trapped in one end of the car. There, the tanker truck with the load of the unloaded tanker car should be grounded with one or more ground rods to guard against static electricity. The straight current ground cable should be permanently bolted between the track rails. D-rails, which are wedge-shaped devices of wood or metal, should be placed in the head of the car they or prevent other cars from backing into the tanker car during transfer operation. Also, they are placed into the rails, prevent tanker car from rolling. Facility. Loading and unloading facility should be arranged with a shovel. The tanker should be shoveled at the same time. Each servicing point of the facility should have bounded cables to balance service point with the tanker car shelf to the track. There should be the emergency valve with the sum of the distance loading and unloading point with this valve with a cutoff the flow through the line in the case of the fire. In some case with the product with the flow with the gravity to loading. Unloading facility with the bulk storage tank with the pipeline. In other cases, the fixed or portable pumping units must be used to transfer the product. Other equipment of the facility is described below. Distribution manifold, made of pipes and valves extended with the loading and unloading facility with the provides outlet for servicing serve the tanker cars at one time. Manifold must be grounded with the cables must be able to bond manifold track in the tanker car. Car mover. There should be a standard car mover. The spine tanker cars for each of the loading and unloading facility. Electrical equipment includes light switches and monitors. They must be explosion proof with a good working order. Outlet plug with a wood and cone shaped plug with the bottom of the tanker car should be available in case of an emergency. Gosler coupling allows the tanker car to be bottom loaded, unloaded by any NATO facility. The couple will adjust to fit any of the tanker car bottom outlet elbow with adapters and fit various hoses. Figure 11.3 shows the Gosler coupling. 11.3 shows the Gosler coupling. Precautionary measures. Certain precautionary measures must be taken when the tanker cars are loaded, unloaded, including among measures of the following: no smoking signs must be placed to ensure that no smoking is within 100 feet of the transfer operation. No welding, open flames, lights, or the other expansion explosion-proof flashlights, lanterns are allowed within 100 feet of the transfer operation. The carry of the matched lighters and open lights is prohibited. All loading and unloading equipment must be bonded or grounded. Section 2. Procedure of loading tanker cars. Preliminary procedure. The number of the procedure that must be followed before the tanker cars are loaded is described below. Sample engagement. Take a sample of the product to be transferred to the tanker car. Visually inspect. Make sure that the product has no unusual appearance. Identify with the quantity of the product with the question. Test the product to make sure that the specifications before test and where operation started. Also gauge content of the supply tank record or data. Take water cup with the supply tank using the water indicating pace. Drain any of the water before product is transferred. Inspect loading equipment. Inspect the pumps and hoses and pipelines manifolds to see that they are clean, good operation condition, possible equipment to handle the one over the product. More than one product must be handled by the same equipment that must also previous product literally drained by the new product installed, handled. Spotting tanker car. Spot a tanker car. Usually the following procedure: make sure the track rail with the properly mounted and grounded, ensure the cable connection, ensure the bare metal to metal contact. Position the tanker car to ensure that there's no unnecessary strain with the hose connection. Set the brakes and block wheels of the tanker car to keep it moving during a loading operation. Set and lock the rails. Place a stop tanker cars connected to the signs between the rails at least 25 feet, preferably 50 feet ahead of behind the tanker car. Groups of tanker cars. Place a sign so they can be seen with a switch groove of the main line next to the spur track. Sign should be at least 12 inches by 15 inches with black letters on yellow background. With the word stop should be in 4-inch letters. The word tanker car connected should be in 2-inch letters, and place at least 2 fire extinguishers near the tanker car, which where they will be easy to reach. If there is no permanent ground rod, drive 4 to 5 feet iron rod for the ground beside the tanker car. Test the ground wire of the tanker car on the rod. Soak the ground around the rod with water. If the tanker manifold is used, the bottom of the tanker car shell, the several rail cars are waiting surface position of the products are all together, all MO gas together, all JP8 fuel together, and all aviation fuel together. Place no smoking signs in the air, which they can easily be seen. Removing the dome cover, stand on the windward side of the dome, and when releasing the internal pressure for the remove of the dome cover, the valves, clean all the dirt with around the dome cover, to raise safety valve of the dome to see that the pressure is on the tank. Reduce any of the pressure in the tank by keeping safety valve open. Remove the padlock seal with a screw of the dome cover to loosen the dome cover slowly to permit any of the remaining pressure to escape through vents in its cover. If the tanker car has a screw cover, place for the bar between the cover hinge, lug, and the dome nub, and then unscrew the cover to complete turns until the vent opens exposed. If the car has a hinge bolt dome cover, loosen the nuts enough to release the internal pressure. Remove the dome cover. Inspecting tanker car. Inspect the tanker car to determine the suitable with the receiver the product with the following steps. Make sure the product is last carried in the tank with the same product with the also transferred to the tank with the product and no same file with the procedure military handbook 200. Inspect the inside of the tank visual with the outside of the dome tank. Make sure that it's clean. If there is rust and scale on the dirt, residual of the tank must be cleaned before it's filled. With the only authorized person familiar with the procedure of the cleaning tank should enter the tank. See Chapter 12 of the tank cleaning procedures. Lou. For any foreign material with the tools, bolt the old tanker car seal that may have fallen into the tank. Should objects be removed with the only authorized person, some of the objects may contaminate the product. When inspect the tanks of the residual product must be removed when the tank is filled. Inspect the inside, outside of the tank visually with the outside to make sure there's no holes, cracks, leaks, or loose plates. See if the tank is properly mounted with the underframe of the tank itself is roadworthy. Inspect with the dome and the dome cover with the safety valve to make sure there's work on the good condition. Make sure that the vent holes in the dome cover open clean. Make sure the bottom outlet chamber is in good condition. Ensure the outlet valve seal with the seals made properly. Place container under the bottom outlet chamber with the each gas of the drain. Should they stay until the transfer is complete. Open and close the outlet valve several times with the valve robbed handle located in the dome. The valve does not properly replace the valve gasket. Repair the valve in an emergency load of the tanker car without repair with the outlet valve. However, the report and the personnel of the installation receiving the tanker car will be unloaded through the dome. The valve should be then repaired as possible when the outlet valve is open. Close it if necessary. Tank must be flushed up. Small amount of the product to be allowed. Then we'll remove the traces of previous product rust and scale from the outlet sump. Removing the bottom outlet cap. Make sure the outlet valve is seated before removing the bottom outlet cap. Removing the bottom outlet cap is valve. Remove the bottom outlet cap with the tank of the wrench. If the cap does not unscrew with the easily tap the cap with a slightly upward direction with a wooden mallet or block. Let any of the product outlet chamber of the drain into the drainage container. Open the outlet valve to allow the residual product to drain into the container. Trust the outlet valve with a do not replace the outlet cap of the car with its completely loaded. Dispose any of the product with the container and place it back in the outlet valve. Bottom outlet loading. Tanker car should always be loaded with a bottom outlet valve with a prevent vapor loss to reduce the static electricity chain with a production contamination production precaution procedure for loading of the tanker car through the bottom outlet earth valves. Place pump unit at least 50 feet from the tanker car. Make sure that the pumping is properly ground. Make sure the supply of container is properly ground and vented. Make sure the hose line connections are not laid to the ground with a dust cap of the plug. It could result with a contaminant over the product. Connect with the pump suction line with the outlet with the supply container. Tanker car emlet Gosler coupling the tanker car outlet connect with the pump discharge over the either elbow over the coupling the tanker car elbow is above the tanker car loading facility and a FSSP. Station someone on the windward side of the dome is a signal with the full mark is reached. Open the full following valves before serving the pump outlet valve supply contaminator pump valve necessary to permit flow through the pump. Tanker car bottom outlet valve manifold valve with the manifold used. Serve the pump valve with these precautions. Step if the spill occurs with while loading. Stop with the pump. Cover the air with a blanket and foam with a foam fire extinguisher. If there's no fire, foam fire extinguisher in the air. Cover the spill with sand and dry earth. Remove the contaminated earth and dispose of it in accordance with the correct regulations. If spark is seen within the car being loaded with over the sump, stop the pumps at once. Check all the bonding and grounding connections. All connections with the bare metal contact. If the bad connection can be found, check the power equipment into the air with a straight current with correct with any faulty condition. In the event of any enemy attack, electrical storm, fire, stop, transfer, operation, disconnect the pump, discharge, hose, tanker, elbow, place the bottom outlet cap. If the time permits, move the car out of the danger zone, set with the brakes and ground the car. In case of fire, hinge dome with the top loading with a closed dome. In case of fire, with a screw dome with a throw down with a wet tarpaulin with the blanket over the dome with a carbon dioxide foam finish. Signature with the loading operation. Stop with any of the recent disconnect with the pump discharge hose. Check with the content of the tank off and overloading filling. However, never put your head in the dome. When the product level is near the full mark with the tank car signal with the pump operator to reduce the pump speed, reduce the stop of the pump loading the system with control valve with the reduce the product flow partially close the valve. The tank does not have the full mark or load the tank until the product reaches the top of the shelf and the tank gets full of the stop of the pump and shows all of the valve to disconnect with the pump and discharge hose. Alright, dome loading. After the tanker car should be loaded with the dome only with the bottom loading is not possible. The tanker car must be loaded through the dome. The following steps. Place the pump at least 50% with it 50 feet from the tanker car. Make sure the pumping unit is properly grounded. Make sure the supply container is properly grounded and vented. Make sure the hose line connections are not laid with the ground with a dusty cap and plug with could result with the contamination of the product. Connect the pump suction line and the outlet of the supply container and put the end of the load hosing drop tube of the dump tank until it almost touches the bottom of the tank and the bottom the hose and drop tube over the tank. Make sure the end of the loading hose of the drop tube remains submerged in the product of the tank during the loading. If the hose tube does not extend far into the tank, product will splash and vaporize. Splashing also causes static electricity. Make sure there's no strain on the hose that would cause it move the cause that come out of the tank. Opening the volume valve of the pump and start outlet valve of the supply container. Pump valve to allow the fuel flow through the pump. Load rack outlet valve where load is racked is used. Manifold valves are manifold used. Make sure all connections are sure to start pumping through the precautions steps. Check for the leaks of the bottom outlet valve of the product. Start with the flow into the tank. But if the leaks stop with the pump, try to seal with the bottom outlet valve, turning the valve rod handle clockwise. If the leak continues, stop loading and recover the product with the tank to clean up any spills. Spills occur with loading at the top of the pump. Cover the air with a blanket of foam with a foam fire extinguisher. If there's no foam fire extinguisher, with the cover the spill and sand and dry earth to dispose of the contaminated earth according to the current regulations. Stop the pump and once to check all the bonding and grounding connection. If the sparks are well with the product is being loaded, all connection of the bare metal to metal connection with the bad connection cannot be found. With the check of the power equipment in an area with the straight current with the trade acting faulty condition. Stop transfer operation event with the enemy attack electrical storm or fire disconnect of the pump discharge hose with the tanker elbow and replace with the bottom outlet cap. If the time permits, move the car out of the danger zone with step of the brakes and ground. Stop the loading and causing close the dome. If there is a fire hinge dome in the case of the fire screw dome, Throw the wet tarpaulin blanket over the dome and use carbon dioxide on the foam fire extinguisher. Remove the hose, drop the tube of the tank of loading, and stop at any of the reason. Check with the content of the tank off, avoiding overflow filling. However, never put your head in the dome. Single pumping operator to reduce speed. Get your ready to stop the pump whenever the product level is near the full mark on the tank. When using the load racking with the other system with the control valve, reduce the product valve flow by closing the valve when the tank does not have the full mark. Load the product until the reach of the top of the tank shell. When the tank is full, stop the pump and close all the valves. Carefully remove the loading hose, drop the tube in the tank and avoid spills. Alright, follow-up procedures. Certain follow-up procedures must be before and after the tanker car is loaded as follows. Allow the product to stand for 15 minutes with a spin. Water settlement consult with a gauge sample the content of the tank with the temperature of the product with the volume correct with the quantity on the DA panel at 7 to 10 2 with a record of the data sake of the sample the reference until the tank is delivered. For any of the water sediment from the tank compared with the amount of the product issued for the storage tank with the amount loaded with the tanker cars after the daily closing gauge of the tank. Report except the loss of the proper authority. Play with the bottom outlet cap with the check with the load of the dome. Cover the tanker car with the full product. Please improve the identification seal of the dome, cover the seal of the places of the receiver is assured no one has tampered with the car. Record the sealing mark on the shipping paper with the remove of the drainage tub with the bottom outlet, but properly dispose any of the product that any product that is in the tub. Remove any dangerous empty sign with replace with a flammable sign. Disconnect with the ground wire with the tanker car. Remove the derails if you remove the tanker car connected sign. Relieve the brakes and move the car with the transfer area. Section 3. Proceeding unloading tanker cars. Permanently proceed with the certain procedure that must be followed before tanker cars are unloaded. Procedure given below with the inspecting and receive of the containers. Inspecting and receive of the containers. You will need to follow certain procedure. The procedures are if the product of the tanker car is drained for the can and drum. Inspect with the can and drum to make sure they're clean and good condition. If the product tanker car is drained for the tanker truck with the semi-trailer, inspect the vehicle tank with it. If you would tanker car tanks. If the product of the tanker car is drained for the storage tank, may use the storage tank is unsuitable to receive the assigned product. If the receiving already has been product engage sampling tank and contents. Make sure and over the outage tank is to receive the product with a visually inspect the sample to make sure that the product is receiving the tank with the same as the product of the tanker car. If there's no doubt, have the test verified with the grade of the quality of the product before mixing with the new product. Gauge tanking again and record data. Make sure the receiving tank is grounded and vented. Inspecting unloaded equipment. Inspect pumps, hoses, and pipeline manifolds. See that they are clean, good operation condition, possible with the use of the equipment to handle one product. If more than one product must be handled, same with the equipment to make sure all assemble the previous product and thoroughly drained before new product is pumped. Alright, spotting tanker car. The number of procedure performed in the spotting tanker car. The procedure is described in section 2 in addition with the following procedures apply with the loading tanker car. Checking seal of the car number to make sure the tanker car is right place for the Comparing the car with the seal numbers with those of the shipping paper with the seal of the locks are intact. Notify proper authority if the carriers or arrive with the broken seal of the lock. If the emergency of the tanker car is needed, immediately unload the tanker car, but not use the product until it has been tested. Remove the dome cover, the product seal loose. Remove the dome cover. The safety valve is not working. High pressure may develop with the tanker car. Hot weather, the time permits of the relief of the pressure, letting car cool overnight, relieving the pressure vent, allow the product to vaporize and call the fire hazard. Our tanker car inspection. The number of procedures that must be filed with the inspect with the tanker car. The following step with the inspect with the tanker car. Leak through the shell with the bottom outlet with the there sign with the car leaking schedule is being unloaded at one place container and catch leaking product with cleaning up any spills. Gauge sample the content with the tank, the sample the appearance and the color of the tank with the temperature of the product, the volume correct and quantity. Record with the DA pan 71022 with the record with the data and slow drain any water taken through the bottom outlet. After the water is removed with the gauge of the contents again. Volume correct with the quantity according with the DA pan 71022 with the record of the data fall. Fuel is cloudy, off color. There may be contained with any questionable product through the tested before it's unloaded. Make sure the bottom outlet valve, outlet chamber with a good condition, outlet valve with a working properly. If it is used and unloaded with the gold weather, the water and tank might be free. The outlet valve will cause it not to work with a free frozen valve with a supply steam, hot water, hot cloth for the outlet chamber. Hot air duct tank with a heater or slave kit, maybe even the trained personnel with authorized to thaw the outlet. Let the valve thaw in warm part of the day when possible. Alright, safety precautions. The tanker car should be unloaded through the bottom outlet with the tanker unloaded through the dome. Only when it is possible, unload through the bottom outlet when loading the tanker car through either the bottom outlet or the dome. Follow these safety precautions. Spill will occur with the unload with the top of the pump. Cover the air with a blanket of the foam from the foam fire extinguisher. If there's no foam fire extinguisher in the air, cover the spill with the sand and dry earth. Dispose of the contaminated earth according to the current regulations. If sparks appear or sparks are seen while the car is unloaded, shore, stop the pumps and immediately check all the bonding grounding connections. All connections should have bare metal. Bad connection cannot be found. Check with the power equipment area with a straight current area, any faulty condition. In case of enemy attack, electrical storm fire, stop the transfer operation, disconnect the pump section, hose the tank of the car, elbow, replace the bottom outlet cap, remove the drop tube and the hose. If the time permits, move the car out of the danger zone, sever the brakes, and ground the car. Connect the fire and hinge dome, stop unload, close the dome. Connect the fire, screw the type of the dome through the wet tarpaulin blanket over the dome under the carbon dioxide flow fire extinguisher. If loading is stopped for any reason, disconnect pump suction hose, remove the hose and the drop tube from the tank. Bottom outlet procedure. Certain procedures must be followed. Unload the tank car from the bottom outlet. Is shown figure 11.411, page 1111. These procedures are followed. Place the pump at least 50 feet with the tank car. Ground the pump. Measure the diameter of the bottom outlet tank. Make sure the disconnect and the connection can be made with available adapter. Turn the valve, rod handle, and handle clockwise to make sure that the outlet valve is seated with a drain up to a tub on the bottom outlet. Leave there if there's operation is completed. Loosen the bottom outlet cap 1 or 2 turns and permit the product trapped in the outlet chamber to run into the drain tub. If the cap does not unscrew easily, tap it lightly in an upward direction, wooden mallet or a block. Do not unscrew the car cap completely. If the flow of the outlet does not slow down after 15 seconds, the outlet valve is not seated properly. In such case, tighten the outlet cap. Try to seat the valve properly. Unload the tank car from the dome if the valve cannot be seated. When the drainage of the outlet slows to drip, remove the outlet cap. Check the tanker car elbow the Gosler coupling with the tanker car outlet with the necessary adapters. Connect with the pump suction line of the tanker car elbow over the coupling. Connect the pump discharge line with the inlet receiving container. Dispose of the drainage. Collect the drainage tub. Put the tub back in place. Place the dome cover over the manhole, propping it up in the block of wood under the edge. This allows the air to enter the tank and product is unloaded. As the product is unloaded, open the bottom outlet valve with all the connections secure. Open the proper valves in line. Start the pump. Watch for leaks around all connection with the product starts to flow. If the leaks are stopped, pump to make repairs before starting pump again. Wait until all the product has been unloaded from the tank. Let the pump drain with the suction line with a stop. The suction line is empty, but the engine speed will increase noticeably. Check the inlet valve of the receiving container immediately after shutting down the pump so that the product will not drain back into the train line. Show the drainage tub in the bottom outlet, the grounding wire, the iron stake, moisted ground pumps, and suction hose. 350-gallon pumping assembly. Dome unloading. Certain procedures must be followed on unloading the tank when through the dome is shown figure 11.5, page 11.12. Procedures followed. Place the pump at least 50 feet from the tank car. Ground the pump. Place the drainage tub under the bottom outlet. Put the end of the unloading hose of the tank dome until they almost touch the bottom of the tank. Keep the hose below the surface of the product of the tank and completely unloaded. Connect with the pump line, discharge line, inlet, receiving container. Place the dome cover over the manhole. Reset it against the hose and allow with enough space for the venting. Open the proper valve of the line. Start with the pump. Watch for leaks around all connections when the product starts to flow. If there's a leak with the stop pump, the repairs before starting pump again. Wait until the product has been unloaded from the tank. Let the pump drain the suction line, then stop the pump. When the suction line is empty, the engine speed will increase noticeably. When check the inlet valve of the receiving container immediately after shutting down the pump, so the product will not drain back into the line. Remove the bottom outlet cap and possible drain of the product with the outlet chamber into the drainage tub. Show the bottom outlet drainage tub, ground wire, iron stake, the ground wire pumps and suction hose, 350-gallon pumping assembly. Alright, follow-up procedures. Check on the follow-up. Proceed with the performance of the tanker cars. Unload the procedures followed. Make sure the tanker car is completely empty. Gauge sample the product with receiving the tank volume with corrected quantity with DA PAM 71022. Record the data compared with the amount of the product delivered with receiving the tank with the amount of product taken out from the tank car. Repair accepts the laws of the proper authority. Allow enough time of the water particles to settle the receiving the tank, drain the water, receiving the tank, gauge with contents again. Record the data, remove the unloaded hose, drop the tube of the tank car, close and unlock the dome cover, remove the drain tub, discarding of the product of the tub. If the tanker car has a flammable sign, replace with the dangerous empty signs, disconnect the ground wire with the tanker car, remove the derails if used, remove the tanker car connected signs, if release the brakes, remove the car with the transfer area, and notify proper authority tanker car is emptied and is to be removed and reloaded. Report any car defect for the proper authority. And that chapter 12, tanks, tanker car, tank vehicles, maintenance and cleaning.